I assume it'll have the same fate as the folks desk.
And how much money they have is.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't talked. Do you want to just jump right into the library? Or did you have something you wanted to talk about first? Great. Yeah.
Around employee compensation stuff, that's like.
Great, perfect. That's great. Whatever. Was this put here as a hint to me, Millie? Do you know?
Oh, I didn't put it there.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure whether it was sort of Judy.
We have been talking about negative. Yeah, so since.
I mean-
My Tom was on his text. Oh, so. Oh, right. So he was probably. Now you're out with the money.
Perfect.
Yeah. See, our meetings. So that they're not.
Was it Tom's phone?
Yes, it was.
You should have called it.
Well, I did hand talk.
Oh, okay. Bam, that was Tom's phone.
I know, I heard, that's what noise. Tell them that I was over. Said, I'm.
You just saw him in the county truck, so said he was coming in. Doesn't he have to speak?
Exit strategy, people even sit there. No, that's fine. Do you want to move over one? Yeah. Jen's coming. And I just. I see you all. I see you out walking with the dog. So nothing but like a. Like that person is so proud to have you. Good. Yeah.
I think my team was being contact, I think.
Did you see what I put in your spot?
I've been calling you, you won't answer.
Yeah, it must not you.
What, you got your phone?
I wanted to set up a mic for.
So we're gonna have plenty of, we got plenty because two people aren't coming.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
So I left it, yeah. I called you twice. Well, see the text I sent you.
See my.
Huh?
What your mailbox?
Oh, I haven't got, no, I, huh? Right. Dude. Oh, that's awesome. She said your phone's in your office. I was like, I said, go get it. Yeah.
I don't remember, like, our own crazy stuff. It's so weird.
Yeah.
So if you get logged out, just friends and
I'll do that. You know, you're a mess.
Library on its own thing. Did.
But I think that.
So Mona, I'm gonna open and kick to you.
Oh, little tree.
Take your time. We didn't want to be and say, Mona, hold on.
Yeah.
The other one.
Oh, yeah, right there.
Good work. Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's good to see everybody. Call this meeting of the New Charm Town Council to order. Today is Wednesday, March 25th. It is 3:01 PM. And we'll start today with Mona Helterline, who has some stuff she wants to talk about.
Hi.
Hello.
So we presented this budget to the council the last meeting, just gave a quick overview. The proposed budget that we have here shows an 8% increase over the prior year for an increase of $1,608,075. The priorities continue to be the promoting, training and retaining of our skilled workforce at a competitive rate, as well as investments in capital and upgrading town facilities. The first page of the narrative kind of shows you where our revenues are coming from, and we'll talk more about revenues at another point, either later in this meeting or at the next meeting. And so today we're going to focus on things on a departmental level. And we'll start with the library. We have Bob here. Hi, Bob. Bob has put together a thoughtful narrative that I wanted to make sure he could elaborate on.
Hi, Bob. It's good to see you.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be seen. Right. All right. Did you want to start with some questions, or would you like me to go right into my monologue? I'm sorry, what did? All right, thank you. I think a lot of the lines are self-explanatory, and what I'd say as an overview is there is a balance between increases and decreases. What I would like to say a few words about are some of the items that were not immediately acted on positively. And I'd like to explain a little bit about why I chose those for particular increases or inclusion. Let me begin with the portion of the budget dedicated to buildings. That in large measure, which is an increase of about $30,000 over what was recommended last year and budgeted, is a reflection of an ongoing, it's really become a chronic problem, which is our HVAC system. Now, there are different ways of looking at this, and one of them is that we continue with the status quo, which is that these expenses keep popping up, and they probably will continue to pop up until the whole system is fixed. The increase that I've included there, I think, is prudent in as much as by January of this fiscal year, we were almost we had spent almost $20,000 on maintenance. Actually, by now, as of yesterday, after another service call, I guarantee you we're over $20,000. That's compared to $11,000 for the year before. So the trend is we're going up. That system was put in, it was before my arrival, so it's got to be back. I'd say it's probably 10 years old or thereabouts. The problem, the genesis of this problem is that it's an extremely sophisticated piece of machinery. The company that installed it no longer services Block Island. The folks who are the preliminary source for maintenance for these systems, and a lot of the systems on Block Island, is a plumbing and heating company. They don't do digitized systems. So in effect, what they're trying to do, ergo the expenses, is to reverse engineer our HVAC system to turn it into an analog system. And that is, it's not, doesn't really rise quite to the labors of Hercules, but it's pretty darn close. So in effect, they're working on the system, but they have to find a problem, a new problem, before they can address it. Once they address a new problem, they find another problem. So the increase that I'm asking for is not part of a long-term trend, I hope, to keep asking for more money, but it gives me a year in which to try and find a way of funding a more thorough retrofit. We're trying to get hard numbers for the system for an update so that we don't keep having these experiences. And they are periodic, and they are discomforting, not just for the staff, but for the public. I think if you remember, at the beginning of the fiscal year, we had a situation where the HVAC system was non-functional, and I ended up having to close. And I don't, that does neither the staff nor the public good. So, I understand there are different ways of looking at this. And I respect the fact that a budget is a hard thing to put together and please everybody. But I would like you all to give some serious thought to how this plays out. If I could just digress for a moment, we saw, and this is the same trend that was evident with the elevator. Now, if you go back and look at the general ledger, you can begin to track when the expenses that we were incurring were not simply the yearly maintenance. They were for systems that began to break. I don't see this trend going down. It seems to be ratcheting up. And what I would like to do is to save the town some money. And I'd like to not leave this for whoever succeeds me, which isn't a letter of resignation, by the way. No, it's just, this, we all shed this mortal coil, and some of us are closer to it than others. So that's where this comes in. It's whichever way you want to look at it. I will say parenthetically, I appreciate getting a 7% increase in our budget. I have to tell you that I'm not used to that. Most of my previous budgets were fighting and scrapping just to stay at the status quo mark. So your support is really appreciated, and I appreciate the hard work that it took to put this together.
On all of our parts, that sort of what libraries used to be versus what they are now is quite different. And for our community, that library is very much a hub. And not solely for borrowing books, but for internet access, for basic socializing, for a warm place to go during the day, for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I do want to say, publicly how valuable I think that is, and how well I think over the years the library has adapted to the changing demands in a small town that doesn't have a lot of public space like that. And then whether that's my grandchildren going to the music programs, the range is very broad. It reflects the community, because the community itself, though small, is broad, and I really appreciate that work that you and your staff do.
Yeah, thank you.
Immensely valuable to the community.
Thank you. The only other item that I would mention, which also is, I hope, something that's in keeping with succession planning, is the job description that I included. This is another attempt to try and stay ahead of the curve as far as curve, as far as ensuring that we have people in place who are professionals and can be part of the line of succession.
Sure.
Yeah.
I thought that part of your narrative was particularly compelling.
Oh, you
I
like
think,
that?
by the way,
You like that part?
as-
That was
well,
good.
it's not unique to the library. I mean,
No.
I think it's something we all have in mind when we're looking at departments throughout the town.
Yeah.
And again, and it's not unique to Block Island, right? I mean,
No, it isn't.
It's a challenge on a similar but totally different part of the world. Electric Boat just announced they're hiring 8,000.
Yeah, I saw that.
because they have what we're all facing, which is you start to get a lot of people potentially retirement eligible, and you know, that's what keeps people like you and Amy, I'm sure, awake at night. Whether it's General Dynamics and Electric Boat or the Block Island Library.
Mhm. Yeah, so that is, whether, this year or in forthcoming years, that's another consideration
Yes.
that I
Yeah.
want to keep before you.
Yes.
So did you have any questions you'd like to ask me?
Yeah, I have a question. I like on the, I noticed on the training and travel, you're down considerably.
Mm,
Is that because of, or maybe you can explain why that is? Why you
Sure.
spent so little? Was it over budgeted or what was the?
I don't think it's so much over budgeting, just that there were a lot of disruptions and transitions with the staff. It was, quite frankly, it was hard. We had staff who were out on medical leave, and we had staff who were out on pregnancy leave, and people were, with the limited number of staff that we have, we were doing, I thought, doing pretty well just to maintain day-to-day services. So yes, we were not as engaged with training as we have been in the past, but I think that that's an anomaly. I don't think it's something that certainly I would not expect to see that trend continue.
And the magazine subscriptions, the same thing. Is that because things have become more digital, or I noticed that's also a,
No, that actually that's down. That's going to be down this year because we triaged our magazine collection and did some circulation numbers, and it proved to us that while those, pardon me, while the magazines are still very popular, they're maybe not as popular as they have been in years past, and we could save a bit by cutting back on the number of titles based on circulation and patron demand.
thank you.
Sure.
This is very helpful. Thank you.
Yep, my
Thanks,
pleasure.
Bob, as always.
Any other questions regarding the library at this time?
Not at this time.
Going in order of the agenda here. Next on the agenda is the school with a total budget request of $6,390,111, increase of approximately 4%, which is a state cap.
Good afternoon. My name is John Martin.
How are you, John?
Nice to see some of you again. Some of you I don't know. As you probably, all know, I started the job here on Block Island back last summer, so I'm still relatively new here. I'm here representing the Block Island school budget. With me, I have our principal, Pam Austin, our finance director, Melanie Reeves, as well as a few members of our school committee. We're seeking your request for, as Mona said, a 4% increase in our budget. What I would like to do is walk you through the budget memo that we sent to Ms. Land and hit what I consider to be some of the high points, and then answer any questions you may have. If you have questions during the course of what I'm about to talk about, please feel free to interrupt me. This budget was unanimously approved by the Block Island School school committee on February the 9th. So I turn your attention to revenues, which is on page 2 of the memo, looking at state aid numbers. You can see under the general state aid from RIDE section that we are looking at a 101 or 101.1% increase. That number is very misleading because and percentages, as you all know, can be misleading anyway, but this one is particularly misleading because that's a reflection of 3 students who had applied for benefits and were granted benefits. The inverse could be very well true next year. So if we don't have those 3 students or we have no students, then that number will decrease appropriately or proportionally. Under federal grants, we do not have Title I or Title IV monies because we do not qualify at the low poverty level, which is at about 10%. Another important item that I wanted to bring to your attention here is at the bottom of the grid, the REAP technology hardware money that we're going to be able to use from our Media Lab refresh. Moving to the next page, under expenditures. Highlights here include an increase in the superintendent's office, which is a pension contribution, which is a reflection of previously retired superintendent and somebody like me who's not retired yet. Guidance and social services is an increase because we increased the number of days in our guidance department from 75 to 90 days. In the finance department, you have a 7.2% increase. That is the audit that is currently out to bid. I'm sure you're all aware of that. Increase under the K through 7 grades is a 5.6 increase. We're looking to have a new math interventionist as well as a new teacher assistant. Under 8 through 12, we have an increase of 5.4%, which is a physics teacher. Also included in the K through 12 numbers are an increase in the in the principal's number of days, work days, as well as our Open SIAD curriculum expenses, as well as the tech increases. That information is explained a little bit more thoroughly in the narrative under salaries and benefits. The last paragraph under salaries and benefits is important to look at. You see there that we had projected initially a 10% increase in healthcare numbers. That number is currently at 12.13. And if you look at the dental, it was at 5%. That is going to be at this point, a 6.36 increase.
Can I ask a question before we go? Because going back to your state aid, you said that was 100%. Can you give us the numbers that you're actually receiving, that you received last year in state aid and the number you received this year in state aid?
Yep, that's under our operating budget.
Right.
Melanie, do you have that handy?
So this year, 99,435, and next year will be 199,000.
And that was basically, there were 3 students that qualified for certain. So,
Yep.
And in last year, you didn't have those 3 students. Is there a baseline that we automatically get if we had no students that
No,
qualified or
No.
so if you had none, you received no
you
funding?
get nothing.
This is a fundamental problem.
Right.
Distribution formula. It really is.
And that's the point I'm trying to make on
Yeah.
this, that,
Yep.
should one person move or whatever may happen, it can change. I mean, I guess in some ways it's probably good that our budget is funded, that we're not totally relying on that, but that number, it's amazing what 3 people make a difference on that.
Yeah, it's a volatile number that you can't count on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next page, again, I'd like to draw to your attention the narrative under technology. We are looking at a increase in the technology software budget up to $28,000. This is a result of the trust recommendation interlocal trust recommendation for a written information security policy and the software that would accompany it. This policy is essentially going to be a document that itemizes best practices such as double verification of emails and things of that nature. It places a premium on reviewing your internal practices on a yearly basis. This was recommended to us by our North Kingstown liaison, who was in charge of our technology department. So,
How's that working out?
well, we are going to have the second reading of the policy at our school committee meeting in April.
I'm sorry, how's it working out to the work with North Kingstown? Is that a real benefit?
We have
to us?
Yes, we have a good working relationship with the folks over there. They've been very accommodating. For example, during the February break, they were in the media center putting in a new state-of-the-art, not quite as state-of-the-art as yours, system where I would be able to Zoom or Google Meet people in and out of meetings, which didn't exist previously. So we're very happy with their services at
Gotcha.
this point.
Sorry to interrupt it.
No,
Just
all right.
curious.
Next page, under insurance, we've already reviewed that the numbers there are not accurate as of this point. Supplies and materials, we're looking at, again, Open SciEd curriculum, which is a relatively high ticket item, but recommended or mandated by the Rhode Island Department of Education. Under tuition, expenses were level funded. And again, building operations, I think you are all familiar with the circumstances over at the Block Island School. That too is, I don't want to use the word volatile, that's probably not fair, but it changes day to day. You know, not unlike the problems that the library experienced this year, we were without heat for 3 days this month. So it's something that we're going to consider, something that we really can't pin down. It's going to be a situation that changes, if not on a daily or monthly basis, certainly year to year. Next, under special education, we've seen an increase in our Medicaid revenue, primarily because we've bolstered our professional development for some of our administrative assistants who are submitting paperwork in a more efficient and timely manner, so that we're realizing some benefits there. As I said, earlier, we were going to be looking to add a teaching assistant. We've actually we're going to add this person this year as the need is critical, and we project that we will need this position for the indefinite future.
Can I interrupt and ask one question before it leaves my mind? Because you said the OpSciEd program is required by the state. What's the cost of that? I couldn't find it. And I may just have been looking in the wrong spot.
I don't think we've itemized it out specifically.
Ballpark? I mean, is it a $5,000 thing or a 50? You know, like $20,000?
And that was the mandated item.
Right, we already have. And then.
Gotcha.
Then also on clarification, on the, back to the building operation, repairs to the building, what is the town's responsibility and what's picked up under the school? Like, I know the generator was something picked up by a little bit of both, but you know, the general maintenance, is that picked up by the school budget?
Yes is the short
all
answer. But, you know, I think the generator is a good example. Over the years, this is sort of taking a long view, the school has historically kept a pretty reasonable budget, and that comes with an intellectual commitment on the part of the town that when they do have a maintenance item that is somewhat extraordinary, we will participate in that solution. Keeps them from year to year submitting an inflated budget, if you will. So I think that's a great example of where we try to problem solve together when there's an extraordinary maintenance expense. Day-to-day operations, care and custody of that building resides with the school and the school committee. We do have examples where they have capital items that they can't necessarily fund out of excess fund balance or their own programming. You'll see that in our capital budget, and there's an example this year.
Yeah,
Fair
thank
to
you.
say?
Last item that I'd like to point out to you is under transportation. Thanks to Melanie's work, we have successfully sold the 2 buses as,
Really?
yeah, surplus materials. Pleased to report that the large diesel bus was sold for $15.
Never has so much been done for something.
And the,
Did 16.
the 14 passenger bus went for $22,000.
Oh.
So that's good news. Cranston Public Schools won the bid on that one.
Great.
So that concludes my presentation, such as it is. You may have observed I was a little nervous standing in front of you. I've done this before, but never here. I've never had to stand doing it before either, so that set me off my game a little bit, but I'll be better prepared next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from Phil or Kristen?
Oh, good.
In this section? Terrific. Thank you, Mona. Thank you. Thank you, John.
So before we get into each department across the town, and we already talked about the library and the school, but I just wanted to kind of remind everyone that currently we're still under contract negotiations, so we have just a 5% increase for all salaries across the board here. We did get news of the health and dental insurance rate adjustments. However, we do have some premium offset credits that we can choose to apply this year, and I think we're going to do that. And I think that's going to level it. Ultimately, I don't think we're going to see any change. The rate increase, I think the premium offset is going
Do
to
you
do.
need a decision from us about whether to use those, or is that something that you generally do?
Yeah, they said it's available. We decided to use it.
Not fishing for a role. I'm just curious about how it works.
Yeah, so, and they get back to us with some revised rates, applying those across, because that would be shared with the school and then the sewer and water, who would be, they're accounted for separately.
Can you explain what the offset rates are? What,
I asked them exactly what makes the offset rate to understand more about the allocation. I don't know if it has something to do with the usage. Do you know, Amy?
That's a short and simple way to say it, that post the plan year, there are adjustments based on usage, enrollment, et cetera, that are aggregated in a premium offset account. And so in certain years, that becomes material enough that you can take it as a reduction to premium. I would say at least half a dozen times in the last 15 years, we've been able to do that. And as Mona said, that gets shared back with every entity that participates in the plan. It also gets shared back directly with the employees who pay a co-share. So
Gotcha.
that's why there's a lot of math to do.
Yes, yes.
But essentially, because we're in that health pool, they are careful to identify member contributions that are then owed back to the membership. You're not going to find that in a program that's not administered by an entity like the trust.
so is this almost like an adjustment at the end of the year based on how, because they're nonprofit, or it might be that they
At a
came out
very
with
high
results,
level, yes.
almost like a good driving record or
Yep.
something like that, and because of that, there's a benefit to it. And then you can, it sounds like, Mona, you can bank these and use them at whatever time you decide to, but if we didn't use them now, they wouldn't go away.
They wouldn't go away. They'd sit there until the next full premium year. Because it does get applied at the beginning of the year, and it's also allocated to, reduce the co-share of the employees. So they use it as a calculation to that base rate to get our final rates.
And so do we have a dollar figure what that is?
It's roughly around 27,000. There was a portion over in the dental and then health, and then a credit on the dental side as well that was less.
And this is just from the 1 year. This is an addition. Is there any additional years that are in there? Or you're not sure?
This would account for the last 2 years. We used a premium offset credit the year before last, which reduced the rates as well.
So basically you have a bank.
Right.
Gotcha. I mean,
Yeah, and then when we go to renew, they check in and see if we want to use it, especially in times when they, are indicating there'll be a rate increase.
Sure.
So if we use ours, if we engage this, then the employer automatically does it. So
They,
it has-
yeah, they will
don't-
get the benefit.
It's
of-
only when we engage it, not the employee officer, we
Mhm.
engage to use that. To me, it would make sense when you have a large jump in the rates to utilize that, so.
Yeah, the
That's
grand
good.
total was just under 30,000. So it was 3,100 for dental and then 26,000 for health. But again, we do have to allocate that amongst, the school and the sewer and water. But when I ran the numbers for what this adjustment compared to this 10% increase we have for health insurance in the budget, made the adjustments for what the actuals are coming in at with the 12 point something percent increase, it leveled out. So I really don't think we're going to see an impact from that increase because of that.
Good.
Gotcha. One more, just quick question about this, that I'm just curious about it. Is it a trust-wide premium credit or is it done town by town?
It's personal to the municipality.
Gotcha. I wasn't sure whether, the insurer viewed the trust account as, one big thing and then it was allocated back.
Right.
That's a good point. Like, so we may have this credit, but another community may not, based
Correct.
on what
Yeah.
their claims or whatever might be from that.
I was just curious.
Yeah, no.
Yes. That is correct. Okay, and so in addition to those notes regarding wages and benefits, we do have an exposure of about $204,000, which would represent our employees who are eligible for full family benefits, but aren't taking them for one reason or another. Opting out because they have benefits elsewhere, or they're an individual and they don't, they could get married tomorrow and be able to be entitled to those benefits. So that's just something to know. We don't budget for things we don't budget just in case. We kind of budget for
Sure.
what's in place now and our best idea of what's going to certainly happen in next year. And then also we had a large increase, as I mentioned, from the ERSRI increased 7%, our contributions for the police wages. So that represents about an increase of about 40,000 cost to the town. The good news is we will see it go down slightly in 28, at least with the numbers that they're currently providing. Just a little bit though, not much.
So what is that?
So
So on the
it,
state side, there's a contribution from the employee makes a contribution
Mhm.
and the town makes a contribution and that number is based off an actuary. And
Yeah.
So what is the number for the employee? And then because the police is a different plan, what's that percentage?
Right, so for the town side, the employee makes this is for ERSRI, which is your defined benefit plan that has two components in the pension system. So the employee pays 2% and the town pays currently, I think it's 7.8 something. I have it in the narrative. This is for town employees.
Municipal town.
Mhm. For the police, the employee pays 10%, and currently the town pays 30.83%, but for fiscal year 27, it's going to 37.94%.
That's a huge number, but I think it's important that people understand that this isn't going to a 401k. This is a number that goes, it's set by the state and it goes into and it doesn't go to the individual, it goes into the plan itself.
Right, and it varies. Each municipality has a different number that they're provided. And it's, the idea is to fully fund the upcoming retirements or planned retirement. So we don't have that huge liability and the state doesn't have a big unanticipated expense later.
And am I correct? And if we were to have, if 3 people that are on the top level retire and we had all, people would say less than 5, 10, well, under 10 years, that actuary would change that number?
I couldn't tell you that. I don't actually know.
Yeah, in that scenario, it would get a lot worse before it got a lot better. Because you've got those retirements at high salaries.
No, I said if they were tied up and then your longest employee was at less than 10 years, then
Yeah.
that actuary would bring that number down at that point.
Not quite yet. It would go higher and then go lower. Because you've got low contributions and high retirements. It would take a little bit of a gap for the actuarial valuations to come back down again.
So are you saying that we'll be looking at a 30 to 40% number for the next 10 years?
At least for the next 2.
Yeah, I don't want to say out for 10, but for a little bit. By adding 2 year-round officers in the last 2 years, we're improving that picture relative to where we were. In that middle stretch, we were relying on outside non-contributing employees. So getting back to that contributing base will help that over the long term. But if we had 2 or 3 retirements in very short order, that rose right back up. So a nice interim period of stability would be great from a retirement contribution
Right.
perspective. Yeah.
Right.
And this funds, and to make this, I don't want people thinking that the police officers getting 40% into their 401k. This goes into the fund to fund the police pension program itself. The retirees, just like the municipal, is defined by a calculation formula to what their pension is.
Yes.
It is
And
not, it isn't tied to.
as Mona said, other communities have a wide range of contributing rates. There are other departments that are up at this number for other reasons. Ours is really driven by a small population, which leads to bigger swings. Other communities may have had underfunded pensions over a long time. They're new to the state system and finally making those required contributions. But on the police and fire, it is actually not a huge anomaly to have very high contribution rates.
There's while we're talking about it, a second component to the state retirement system, which is your defined. So there's your defined benefit, that's ERSRI, and then there's your defined contribution. It functions more, it's like a 401k, but it's not. It's set also the rates. So the town pays 1%, and this doesn't apply to police. This is just the municipal employees. That's 1% that the town pays, and the employee pays 5% of their salary. There's no options really with that. That's the percent you have to pay. You can't pay more than that or less. And yeah, and like I said, then the town pays 1%. So in the narrative, you'll see I've listed the municipal retirement contributions for the town as going from 8.4 to 8.3. That's a combination of the two, ERSRI and TIA, the two components of the state retirement system, defined benefit, defined contribution. So the way that functions, instead of getting a monthly pension that's based on how long you worked and what salary you retired at, when you're at retirement age, you can withdraw either at lump sum or increments of your choice. Everything that's been contributed that has been invested and has grown. That's how it functions, more like a 401 or a traditional investment plan. So that's the state part of our pension, package. And then we also have our 457 plan, which offers a lot more flexibility. It's subject to the federal limits for 457 contributions, which did get a bit of an overhaul with the latest. There was some legislation that changed that added more the ability for people to contribute more to the plans after a certain age, closer to retirement age, gave them more flexibility there.
Are those pre-tax contributions?
Yeah. But now we also have a Roth component. effective. That's effective this year, so employees can now opt in to do Roth contributions. Yeah, so that covers all the pension plan. The town contributes to the 457 plan based on rates set in the contract, based on longevity. It's nowhere near the percentage that we're, putting in for ERSRI and TIA. So that covers pension. Again, the big swing is around the police. And we should expect to see that for a couple of years. We have a couple of vacancies that are accounted for in the budget. We account for unstaffed positions that we are going to make a pure effort to fill in the fiscal year and for that full year. So make our best effort to try to fill these positions. We wouldn't leave them just vacant, not knowing if we were going to fill them or not. So that the vacancies that exist in the budget are the deputy finance director, a full-time position, a highway worker, one full-time position, and a dispatcher at a full-time position. And then we also have, along those lines, we have expanded the staffing for the communications and alarm, which shows up on the central dispatch line, I believe, our department. Increased that to two positions, both of them less than 20 hours a week and no benefits. And one's a director and one is an assistant director. Approximately the $34.82 an hour for the director and $25.97 for the assistant director.
And this is different than the radio.
This is
Position we added.
the same. This is expanded. The original position that we had under that title, so that was communications and alarm officer. We had that in for, I believe it was about 15 hours per week and just at $25 an hour and just one employee. So
This was the one where we had Howell was hiding that position. We just, so I understand, we're talking about the same.
It's well, your details are a little off,
Yeah.
but yes, it's that function. Do we want to get into the specifics now, Mona, or do you want to wait until we get to central dispatch?
I think we should wait till we get to central dispatch. Yeah, I just wanted to just be able to point out what, really focus on the overall picture of payroll and benefits, because it's a huge part of the, of most municipal budgets. Ours is around the 26% of our budget is going to payroll and benefits. And that's not high compared to other municipalities around us. It's very hard to compare because it's not always comparing apples to apples, a lot of different variables. But it's an increase from the prior year. So we are, working towards the council's initiative to expand and bring our wages up to a more competitive rates.
And these are all in line with the pay study that we had done.
Yes, and then any kind of
Got it.
contractual agreements, yeah. So that's my summary, just going over the basic payroll and benefits, as it is a big part of it. Moving on to administration, really the main things to note here, and I'll give Millie a chance to speak if she has anything she'd like to add as well. Just gonna move to that page.
So are we jumping over to the individual departments now?
Yes, so now we're going to administration. So that's going to be page 9 of the budget numbers. It'll be bottom of page 5 for the narrative. So any of the, when you're looking at the percent change column, anytime you see that next to wages, it does not mean that they got a 30% increase. It is really driven by that percentage is based on the budgeted number in fiscal year 26 to the proposed budgeted number for fiscal year 27. And a lot of the numbers that we had in fiscal year 26 either weren't set yet per contract. And that's really what's driving the bulk of the discrepancies between a 5% result in the percent change column. Or also it could be an employee who moved up a step after the budget was set. So other factors here, looks like we increased the consultant legal solicitor just based on what we were seeing for usage and the town manager's anticipated needs. So that went up for 20%.
On the legal, that's covers all the attorneys?
Yes.
And we have some furniture that needs replacing in both the land use office and the finance office. And this is where the furniture for the furniture line lives for the town hall as a whole. So that's a $6,000 increase that you'll see there. The rest is really based on the clerk's, requested budget, which is highly detailed and well planned out. Millie, did you want to add anything?
I don't think so, but if you had any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Other things to note would be the human resource consultant. So we put this in last year, knowing we don't really have a human resources department. It's something that we would like to work towards to have a human resources professional with the amount of employees that we have. And so we're keeping that line in there, but reducing it slightly and kind of reallocating those funds to other consultant areas that need a bigger focus right now. I need more of our focus as we transition some of our positions within the town.
So last year on the wages, we had the clerk and the director of administration separated out, I think at one point. Here it's combined back together, which is fine.
That's why the 31% increase.
Right.
Yeah.
So where was it on? Was it under last year? What was it under?
Last year, the
Difference?
council wanted it put in contingency.
Okay, so it came out of contingency last year, the difference?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just wanted to reflect that it's not an increase of the wages is the normal salary increase, but it's not an increase of 30. That's not a difference in increase to the individual.
Right.
Some people
You'll
misuse
see
that.
what the proposed includes is going to be the current salary plus 5%.
I just wanted that to be clear, so it isn't
Of course.
misunderstood.
We moved the North Light over to the administration part of the budget. Previously, that was over on boards and commissions, another change. We've now renamed that land use. We're trying to define, I would say, the department a bit better, and it felt like North Light might be a better place for this, and Amy can elaborate on that.
Yeah, my first instinct was to move it over to community support, but it is an area where we do have staffing. And so that staff does report up through the manager's office. And particularly as we'll talk more about the Northlight and Orsted funding over the next couple of years, but boards and commissions didn't seem like the right home for it any longer. So it was time to make that shift over to administration. Nothing
So
functionally.
It's basically just moving. it.
Nothing functionally changes. It's just where it shows up within the budget document.
And it's level funded. compared to last year as well, the Northlight maintenance line and wages. Another thing that we have level funded was the deer management program. And that's obviously up for discussion amongst the council as to
I didn't put a recommendation forward necessarily, but I would hope throughout the next few meetings, we would have a conversation about whether the council wanted to talk about increasing the bounty.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
and
I don't mean
what,
yes, we want to, I mean, yes.
yes, we want to
Does that
talk
come-
about it. And what kind of number that might be.
So we'll have, just for how this rolls out, this isn't, tonight, we're just getting this information. We'll have other meetings where we'll be able to adjust
Yeah.
to it. So
Yeah.
I don't want people to think that this is.
Yeah, and Bill, in the past, I don't know whether we did this last year, I literally just can't remember. But I do know that in the past, the council has felt, that there would be value in having an additional budget meeting that is basically the five of us talking about, where we want stuff to go, what we're up for, so let's keep that in mind if
I think that's
we
a good idea.
decide that we want something like
Yeah.
that.
There'll be that opportunity.
Billy loves adding meetings, so. You're getting a 31% salary.
And I ran some numbers just regarding the deer tails and how many we had paid to date. And so this was as of 2/17, we had paid for 166 deer tails. That's this year. Same time last year, we had paid for 241. So I don't know if that is
So are you saying
100 or more deer.
we have money remaining still? Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, we can see it there. Okay.
I think an important add to that would be that the representation from those out on the ground is that those lower numbers don't reflect a lack of effort.
Right.
So,
That's what I've heard
so,
anecdotally.
Yeah, and we assigned the latest advertisement for Lyme testing was assigned to that line as it seemed like the appropriate place.
Well, it sounds like we probably should have a meeting, agenda that item, and we
Yeah.
can figure out where it is and we can adjust from
Yep.
there, so.
Any other questions on the admin? Okay. All right, we're moving on to finance. Overall, the proposed budget at a decrease of 1%. So we have, you'll see on the wages, collectors and clerks, that it's a 10% increase. That's one of those, it's a combination of the fiscal year budget number not being aligned with the contract yet. And then also we added an extra 5 hours to our fiscal clerk. Because we're severely short-staffed. And so we have added an extra 5 hours to her schedule each week. Doesn't increase, it just increases her hours. It doesn't increase the other benefit lines the same way a whole additional staff member would, obviously. We introduced this year consultant finance line. Reason being that I plan to start advertising for the deputy finance director July 1. I know that there's going to be quite a transition period as we get the person trained and up to speed. And I know I'm going to need some technical and professional assistance with a lot of the tasks that I don't have assistance with elsewhere.
So we approved one, we approved this, for this fiscal year. How's that working?
It's working great. They're really helping
Who is it
get
again?
through
I'm-
the,
I'm-
that is CLA. is
Yeah.
their name, Clifton Larson Allen. And really helping getting through the more technical aspects of the audit work.
Right.
And really they can help me with anything that I may need, you know, different
Yeah.
reconciliations
And do you find with them that you assign them things or is there an aspect of it? I hope that they share expertise with you, so you're learning from them as well as
it's
being. able to-
definitely both.
Good.
Yeah, it's definitely both.
Yes, there's great value. right?
Yeah.
That sort of knowledge transfer ultimately is a good investment for the town, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's actually, yeah, there's a lot of benefit to them, not only in just the work they produce, but yeah, I have a meeting with them every week.
Mhm.
And we kind of go over the, you know, the task list and they come with their questions and he being an auditor himself is really good at reading and kind of analyzing the audited financials. And so he came back to me with all kinds of questions regarding the fiscal year 24 financials, you know, which was just super helpful too.
Sure,
Yeah.
gotcha.
To learn about. So
Yep.
I'm finding it very beneficial and I think this is, it's crucial, really.
So if we, I mean, ideally, we'll fill the position that we have open there. If we don't, obviously, if we don't fill that position, do we have the funds or do we have the ability to continue with the consultant or what it takes from that end of it? Because what concerns me is I don't want to fill a position with someone just so the position is filled and they don't meet what we need, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't care whether it's a consultant or whether it's the person, it's taking the load off.
Yeah.
on that end of
That's
it.
that's
So-
very
Well put.
important to me.
Yeah.
I don't really have time to do a lot of basic training. I need, you know, somebody to come to the table with some specific skills that I'm looking for. And I am going to hold out until I get those. So if we get to that point and I'm just not able to find the right fit, then it would look like, my guess is we continue to use those consultants. So you'd see this line going over and you would see, you know, the deputy finance line,
Right,
not,
it would-
yeah,
Yeah.
they would offset
Right.
themselves, each other. That makes sense. And, you know, the more I work with CLA, the more comfortable and skilled they're getting at understanding our little nuances and how our processes are. Some other changes here would be a decrease for tax sale costs and the revaluation. You'll see the 5,000 decrease for tax sale costs. I don't foresee having the time to do a tax sale myself this year, unfortunately. I would love to. There's a lot of things I'd like to do, but I just don't think that I'm gonna be able to swing that. So I don't want to put it into the budget and again, not use it. So I'm gonna wait until I'm certain that I can pull that off and have the time to put towards that. Revaluation, that's something that is driven by the state as to how often we have revals, and we just completed one. And
So statistical
The
reval is
tip-
59 grand.
yes, and it is offset by some contribution from the state as well. But this is not a reval year. Next one will be 2028. One that just finished is revaluations as of 12/31/25.
Right.
All right. Any other questions there?
So
for
that's
finance?
every other fiscal year, basically?
It's every
other,
3 years.
every 3 years?
But then every 9th year, it
Is it
has to be a
full?
full,
Right.
yeah, full reval, which is
Yeah.
a lot more. And, you know, we've received back our preliminary analysis from the statistical reval. And as Amy mentioned, what's coming in is seeming very high, the values that they've assigned. And they've assessed the last couple of years of sales, and they've adjusted really a lot of the changes over in the land value. We're still fine, like detail checking a lot of the numbers, just making sure that everything is accurate, that the information is correct. So we're not putting out, things with errors. And so I'm hesitant to give any final numbers until I made sure that we've checked all those, gone back to them, understand why things
Sure.
are changing. Yeah.
I have just sort of out of curiosity in terms of stable budgeting, whether it makes sense, given that it is a recurring expense, does it make sense every 2 fiscal years-ish to have to bump up by the amount of the statistical reval? Or does it make sense, since it's every 3 years and it's going to be about 60 grand, to just, essentially reserve 20 grand a year? Just,
I see your line of thinking. I'm guessing that the former finance director has.
I know Amy doesn't like those.
Idea about.
Sinking funds.
I think either way is accurate.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's just a big sort of, swing that
Yep.
happens, but it's not an unexpected swing.
Right.
Thought,
Yeah.
as we go through this.
Well,
Being-
especially if you added the full value in there, because what does a full value run? Just a ballpark.
The last one was about 120. You get estate reimbursement on the statisticals, so there's an offsetting revenue. I want to say 14,000 or
Mhm.
so.
Yeah.
There is no offset on the full
On the
rebound.
big one.
Oh, no,
Gotcha.
of course.
We good with finance? Human services. Oh, good. I'm glad Allison's here to talk more about human services.
Hello,
Hey, Allison, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Fantastic.
So I think the big number that I know I've talked to some of you about is the ride service.
Yes.
Couple of things going on, mostly within the age-friendly committee. We've taken our 2 top priorities, I would say 3 top priorities right now, the main one being transportation on and off the island,
Yep.
along with communication around it and socialization. So those are really the 3 main topics right now we're tackling. Rides, transportation in general. The senior ride service, the number that we're looking at from 2025 is obsolete in terms of that going up any further, that it's gone way down. We are funded at least $2,500 through the Office of Healthy Aging towards our senior ride service. If you remember, I just want to jog your memory. When I inherited the role, we had a grant for 10 grand through a COVID grant, and we opened up our ride service to healthcare professionals visiting the island. Those included occupational therapists, physical therapists. The dentists were taking the cab as well as anyone with any kind of mental disability. And unfortunately, we found that there was some abuse. It also wasn't regulated very well because there was a time frame where I wasn't in the role, I was learning the role.
Yep.
So that number went bye-bye. And we have reined it in a bunch, if not almost all of it. The committee is working on a new version of it, for long of the short. And one of the things that we've really acknowledged is that the mainland is a very challenging spot for a lot of people to get medical appointments. I'm kind of throwing this out there too early, but I'm going to say it anyway because I think it's important. I'm working with Age Friendly Rhode Island, who has offered financial support to a volunteer group on the mainland on behalf of Block Island to pick up people from the boat, bring them to their medical appointments and grocery shop, and then get them back to the boat. I'm not going to say who they are yet, because if
Yeah.
we publish that, it could send them into an infrastructure crash, but I'm working on them, making sure that they have the infrastructure to support us. Age Friendly's agreement with me is you have $3,000 from us this year. How are you going to fund it in the years coming up? If it works, it would make sense that some of this money goes towards that. But we also really need to kind of finish up what we're doing here. And the committee has a lot of great ideas. We have separated into two subcommittees, one developing transportation problems and hoping to fill them with solutions. And then the other one is the communication. And so far, this is what I've gotten done, is to kind of handle the mainland part. We do need to identify what the void is here on the island. We thought applications would come in handy, maybe some vouchers where you pay up front. So there's a lot of ideas floating around, but I'm not ready to talk about them yet. But we are working on it. And I am comfortable with this number at this point. So that's where I'm at with that. And I don't know if there's any other questions, because I know that there was an article in the newspaper.
That's what I'd like to address that. As you know, one of my main concerns was that ride share program. I thought it was off the hook, to say the least. And I want to commend you. You've reeled that in. The paper, I think, the last week or so, they referenced the committee is working on different programs, and they referenced about the abuse of it and someone using it 3 times in a day and so forth. I want it to be made clear to everyone that is not referring to this past year. They're referring back 2 years ago, and it's reflected here in the number, as you can see. So I'm pleased to see I'm pleased to see that you've reeled it in, and also that they're working on a plan so it reflects the best return and still meeting the needs of the seniors.
And there's organization around it in terms of invoicing and things like that. So I know how many rides are per unique rider. Part of this, like I said, is funded through the Office of Healthy Aging. So they demand that paperwork in order to fund it. So I kind of have a system down at this point. The invoices come in, I make it so it reads well to them. And so far, I mean, all the money that we've spent in the last 7 months has been through that money.
Right.
So we're in a good position. We just need to fix the program because there is a need for it. I just think that we need to kind of make sure that we have strong rules around it so that I don't have to make a decision on the spot saying, oh yeah, sure, you can have it, but you can't. We really need to rein it in and make a rule around it.
Well, I think, sort of before I get to the specific on that, that particular grant, you guys weren't on the council when the department was created, but I really feel like it is fulfilling its promise in a lot of ways. And obviously it's human services, so you're mostly concerned about human services, but I think part of the driver for it was everything being kind of ad hoc, if you will. And when you talk about pursuing grants on the mainland for some of this stuff, when you talk about planning for transportation and not just sort of saying, how about this? That's for me incredibly encouraging. I think you guys are doing a great job. Not just sort of the day-to-day programmatic stuff, but thinking about what this department needs to be within the resources that we have. It's really well done, Allison.
Thank you. And in terms of the programming, just so you know, that has grown significantly.
Yeah, I know it has.
And
Yeah.
the participation has grown significantly. So we've got really good momentum there,
Yeah.
and we need to keep it going.
Hmm.
So it's important.
Great.
Any other questions for me? I know
No.
it's pretty simple
Not for me.
budget.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Allison.
Okay. Moving over to central dispatch, which we show an overall increase of 9%. We kind of touched already on that addition, the position change for the communication and alarm officer now being a director, an assistant director, there's more hours. And that's really the main driver of this increase. And Paul has something to say about this.
Hi, Paul.
Good afternoon. The biggest changes are in that wages for the communication and alarm officer. And the town manager and the fire chief and myself have been, trying to kind of connect this circle that is sometimes very difficult to connect. I think with the way things are budgeted for this year, and we do have the assistant hired, I think that circle is going to get pretty close to finally being.
So you have the people.
So can I jump in?
Please.
So
Right ahead.
what's contemplated in the 27 budget is continuing that assistant role, which
Mhm.
we implemented in 26.
Yep.
And I can see that look on your face, Bill.
I'm trying to think.
We ended up mostly at the request and advice of Powell, the director, staffing and funding the assistant first. He has volunteered his time for decades and was willing to continue to do that in order to bring in with a paycheck an assistant to learn those roles and responsibilities under him.
Mhm.
So that's where we started in 26. The 27 budget expands that function between the two roles and starts to say the director should also receive some compensation. We're not trying to get to the point where he is fully compensated for all of the level of effort that he puts in. But again, it was a disconnect to have the assistant paid and the director still be a volunteer. Over time, we are continuing to evolve those two roles to really bring them in-house. We've benefited from volunteer support for both communications, the radio systems that police, fire, dispatch use, and the municipal fire alarm system. But the reality is those are our responsibilities to administer. They're our responsibility to operate, and we will not be able to rely on volunteers to do that forever. And so we're working down a path of bringing those in-house. This is the next step in that progression.
So long-term, and I have, first of all, I think that Powell's doing a ton of time and I have, I go back to he and Peter Blaine doing back in the 80s, doing the whole radio system. So I have no objection to that at all, but looking, down the road, hopefully in, 5 or 10 years, whatever it might be, that will end up being hopefully one position. Once the person's all trained in from that end of it,
Yes.
regardless of what the time is, but that's what the objective is.
I think that is the objective. We're not trying to push anyone out the door.
Sure.
But that transfer of knowledge right now is the first priority. Eventually, that can, yes, likely reside in one individual.
And it's a lot more comprehensive than I think a lot of people realize. It's
And you use the phrase that I couldn't think of, but it's that transfer of knowledge that seems to me to be really vital about this. Are the radios working on a particular day? But then there's, over the long haul, we've got to make sure that what we have is in terms of service can be replicated by the next person who's doing this work. So
along those lines, there's an operational line item as well for each function. 6,900 is communications and 9002 is municipal alarm system. I do suspect that the communications operations line at 28,400 is overstated. It's the same number that we carried in 26 into 27. It does have a detail behind it, but we're still really trying to figure out how many of those are annual costs, how many are
Right.
accidentally still being picked up by the fire department. We're finding some of
Right.
those, and getting that all under the town umbrella. At the same time, we're continuing to evaluate the communication system as a whole and making sure we're layering on the right new technologies. So, my hope over time is that line either becomes more clearly substantiated and or may be able to come down, but I'm reluctant to do that quite yet.
I guess maybe this question would be more for Mona. Under the dispatch wages, it seems like it's, it's, the increase. Does this account for the normal pay increase or not?
Yeah,
or-
yeah. It's the normal 5%. There is,
Maybe I was just reading it wrong here, but it was budgeted.
yep, let me just go back. So, and that does have to do with some transition. So people coming in at an earlier step.
Oh, okay.
Right now, it's budgeted for 5 full-time dispatchers, one of them being vacant. And then a temp for excess hours that can be used for a temp and or to cover overtime for leave and such. But
I guess my question is much simpler. The number looks like it's almost the same, but that's because there is the increase in salary with it, but because of the new employees coming in at different salary ranges, that's why that number doesn't represent a 5% increase. So,
yes. Yes, that is the case.
Where are we on the repeaters?
Say it one more time.
Where are we on the repeaters?
I think I might have mentioned this the other day. We did go out to bid within the last 2 months on the repeater project. We did not have any responses. And we did have a vendor who was very excited to put together an alternate proposal.
Mhm.
So they had a different solution.
Great.
We are working with them right now to vet that solution, get some more details, and sort of explore that proposal. So we're in the midst of those conversations right now.
Thank you.
It does, sorry,
No,
Bill.
I-
I was going to say, it does not appear that we will be deploying anything prior to this season, which was sort of the go, no go
Yeah,
question we were looking at.
okay.
So is the alternative something other than repeaters or a type of repeater?
Yes.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Bottom line is they'll be able to communicate in those areas where they.
Yeah, the
can't.
goal has not changed, which is to be able to communicate.
The only, I have one other area that I have a question on, very unlike me, but I think it's very low. On the training, on the dispatches. It doesn't look like anything was expended last year. And I know the effort is just trying to get someone in the seats, but I just think it's really important that, for the training for them, and I question, is $1,000 enough? And whether it be training where we bring someone over, but I just think that it's an important role, and I think the morale and everything, from that end of it, so.
And I agree. And our newest dispatcher, Ms. Malik, excuse me, she has gone out and looked at and found trainings online. Most of them are for free. She's taken them and she's done really well. She's actually since stepping into that role as a dispatch, she's done extremely well. She has looked for some of these trainings. She has taken them. She's passed on the material to Beth and I. She has also passed on the material and the signups to the other dispatchers. So I have one that is really trying to become more educated in doing that job. And as you know, sometimes we do a job for a little bit and we know it, we're good at it. And then you have a new one that comes in and says, well, no, you don't. Maybe you might want to take a look at some of this stuff. So it's nice for me to see that we have someone in there that is interested in looking to push themselves forward, but also everyone else in the dispatch department. And I think all of them want to become better.
So do you think that $1,000 covers enough for the training for all?
I think for right now, and what we have coming in April is that, the new statewide CAT RMS system. And that is gonna take a lot of everyone's time for a while till we kind of get that really squared away. But
Does the
anticipate-
expenditure we're making on that contemplate training all of, everybody?
Yes, yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. Yep. That's it for that budget.
I just, I think I ask this question every year when we talk central dispatch, and that is, my bet, I'm such a layperson when it comes to this, but my bet is this is an area where the technology is accelerating, I mean, I think it's important to do the knowledge transfer from, I don't mean to use people's names, from Howell to the next person, all of that. But I also think there's value, and, part of it is this CAT RMS, or, I think it's really worthwhile to keep in the backs of our minds, is there a point at which there's a new system that's worth spending money on just to sort of, do a new system? My sense is a lot of this is piggyback. There's a lot of people just like, with the new system in April, everybody's kind of on the radio, and it just seems like it's an area where we may at some point want to make a capital expenditure to say we have the best sort of new high functioning system. That's.
Well, I will say, Keith, that every time that you make a change from one operating system to another,
Yeah.
there is always that, because you talk to the salesman sells you the product, right?
Yes.
He doesn't
Right.
he doesn't sell you sometimes what the difficulties are with that
Yeah.
product.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The nice part about the CAD RMS system is there are 17 other municipalities
Yeah.
that are on board, that are using it. I spoke to several of them. I just spoke to the deputy chief in Narragansett last week about noise. And when I talked to him about this, I said, how is it working in dispatch? And he said, our dispatchers love it.
Yeah.
That it's so much easier, so much faster, so much better than the old way. So for us, this is going to be much better.
Yeah.
And like I said, the nice part was that there were multiple other agencies within our state
Yeah.
that are currently using it.
Yeah.
So, as I said, you always get sold the product, you never get sold
Sure.
what the
Yeah.
issues are.
Right.
So,
Right.
and I think at this point, it is one of the more high-tech, expandable systems. And that's the other part that is nice about it, because it is expandable into some of the other ways.
Yes.
There's some fire components to it, but there's some fire components that, aside from what we purchased, if the fire department chooses to go that route. So there's room for expansion, which is nice.
I think that's great.
Paul might have more to add to the police, but I'll just do a quick overview here. So for the police budget, we are showing a 19% increase. A big part of that would be the new officer that's on board now, which is very welcomed. That's going to impact the overtime, so we reduced the overtime a bit, accounting for that new officer. We've increased the seasonal, other line, that's going to be your seasonal reserve officers, just to bring it more in line with, what we're seeing trending and what we're expecting our year-to-date, projections to be. The benefit line is that's a big jump, $101,000. And that is, I already mentioned the $40,000 change just from ERSRI alone. The others would include the new officer that has come on, and then a change in the election of benefits for the police officers that are
Right.
they're on now.
So on the beach patrol wages, obviously we didn't have anyone last year, right?
Correct.
By 0. And we traditionally budgeted the 3,500, it went up to the 5. Do you expect to have someone for that position this year?
I do not.
Okay.
I already spoke with the former, and he is going to be taking the summer off also to take care of family.
So we're gonna try to advertise for someone for beach patrol, or?
The amount of calls for service that we ended up with last year was very minimal.
Okay.
So I'm going to experiment and see if we can't get away with what we have for officers on duty, and see if we can't wrap that in like we used to do way back.
And you would have the flexibility, I would assume, to use a CSO on the beach to do a walk, a patrol or something like that if you wanted to
Yep.
also
Sure.
to fill in if there was
Yep.
and then jumping to that on the CSOs, that went from 25, 24 up to 33. And then I guess last year 31 and it's up to 50. Do you plan, is that increase in salaries, increase in personnel?
No, it's just, I think in years past, sometimes the numbers go up and down depending upon how many we actually are able to house. It's more about housing than it is having applicants. And, you know, Kate and I had talked about this a while ago, that we have discussed the use of handshake. It works wonders for us. I have more applicants than I have positions to fill, which is a great problem to have. Our problem is always housing. What we anticipate is having the 6 that we had last year. So that is reflected in that budget. The other thing that changes sometimes year to year is most of our CSOs are all college students. Some get out of school in the end of May, some the beginning of June, but some go back middle of August, some go
Yeah.
back the end of August. So I think there's always going to be a little bit of up and down in that.
So you had 6 last year.
Correct.
Do you hope to have more this year?
We have housing for 6.
Okay,
And-
so then I guess I just question, why are we at 50 if we spent 31 last year?
Hmm.
And even if there was a buffer of, you know, maybe they can stay a little longer to 35 or you know, or even at 40, is 50 necessary if you're based on what you've had before?
Yep.
Maybe there's just some thought you can give to that.
We can sit down and certainly look at that and look at our numbers and what it actually.
I like the CSOs. I like seeing them in town. I think they're real beneficial. So, I think the more the better. So, but I just think if the numbers are going to be the 6.
Any other questions for
I
Paul?
think, I was gonna say,
Or
I
do-
think
yeah, go
everything
ahead.
else is pretty, you know, Mona explained earlier, in terms of the wages and benefits, the council and the last few years have been extremely supportive of our budget and our staffing and understanding of that. And I do appreciate that. This is, as Bob had said from the library earlier, he's not used to having percentage increases in his budget. He's used to having to fight for them. And I know that some of my contemporaries on the mainland have to do an awful lot of fighting for some of their budgets, and you know, and I don't, because you guys have been extremely supportive of the police and the police department and I appreciate that.
Chief, I had one other question for you. On the body cameras, where in the budget does it pick up? Because I know there's a cost to that, right? The maintenance and everything?
It was through a grant.
Okay.
That's all been done through a grant, so.
And that grant's continuing on, so,
Yes.
and eventually if the grant runs out, it'll end up in the budget here, but right now it's covered by
Right.
the grant.
When we originally signed that, it was for 5 years.
And there's no match to that? That's a straight up grant?
Because the federal government and the state wanted to get that widespread to,
Right.
as many departments as they could.
Yeah, thank you.
Just an easy question. That new system, Chief, does that, if you deploy the body worn cameras, does that load into the new system that we just contracted with the records keeping, or is that completely separate?
No, it's completely separate. What we end up doing is if we have a felony case, the Attorney General's office actually has an account through Axon, which is our body camera company. We take all of our records out of the records management system and load it and all the camera footage and everything into one case within Axon.
Right.
Thanks.
Interesting.
And, one other one, Paul, actually, Chief, I mean, on the accreditation, we've funded each year. I know it's a big hill to climb, no question about it.
Mhm.
And we haven't spent, I guess actual to this year we did, right? We spent, what did I say? We only had 150?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
It's,
What do you anticipate for next year of that 3,000?
what I anticipate is that of the 17 balls that I keep juggling, I might be able to let a couple of them fall and actually focus a little bit more on this. It's something that I know needs to be done. And it was one of the things, quite frankly, when I first took this job, I was most excited to try to get into. And I keep getting balls thrown at me
Sure.
that it makes it a little difficult sometimes.
And my point isn't to be critical of that. I'm aware of what that climb is
Mhm.
to it. But I just, if we don't anticipate, we've been allocating the money for it, it's not being spent
Yep.
and it goes elsewhere. So,
Right.
I would, just to give some thought.
Before we reduce that, Mona, I would ask you to look at the 25 number because I believe some portion of that is a fixed amount payable to, might be the State Commission on Accreditation.
Right.
There is some fixed amount and we don't want to
It may not have been paid yet.
cut
this year,
that,
you
correct?
mean? Okay, great.
Exactly.
Yep.
One other thing just to note on the police budget is that you see a change of 18,000 in their police tech line. That is due to a program that was previously accounted for over on our tech page. It's not called tech, I always call it. It's called GIS technology.
Mhm.
1045 page, that was lumped into all of our software line, which is very large, but we're now accounting for the police tech separately within their department.
Good.
So it's not really an increase, it's more of just a move, lateral move there. Public Works.
Before we move on, can I ask, because we have a couple department heads here and some not, can we focus on the ones that we have the department heads for?
course.
And then I think Jen in particular has another meeting.
Yes,
So not to,
In here, is your meeting in here? Do we have, that's it, okay,
Good.
good.
but if we,
Hell.
Clock zoning.
if we can
Zoning saves the day.
skip around a little.
So this is page 22 of the budget, formerly called Boards and Commissions. We're proposing a new name for fiscal year 27 land use.
I'm happy to answer any questions, but really, it's not too much in my budget anyway. It's pretty simple.
How are things working out with our planner?
Great,
Yeah.
yes. Fantastic.
I thought he did, we had that, at that work session we had earlier this week. I think he's finally catching the vibe, you know,
Yeah.
in other words, it's not about him, it's like, you know, you have to figure out your way to, you know, to fit in and communicate, and I thought he did a nice job the other night. Or the other afternoon, whatever it was.
I'd like to do a little, a little rearranging um, and introduction. So there are a few things going on here. The first, we talked about moving Northlight out so that land use, which is what we call it every day, is finally starting to reflect the functions that live there. Along those lines, there was a request from Coastal Resilience to support in the current year budget a full-time position of a coastal resilience officer. Take that and put it on a shelf. We also have the funding from Ørsted through the Sunrise Wind for $50,000 a year for a climate resilience consultant.
Mhm.
So those two things are sort of integrated in this proposal. And what we've carried forward as a recommendation is the $50,000, which is funded through Ørsted. We'll see that on the revenue side, towards a coastal resilience consultant. The town may elect over time to make that into a long-term position, but we have this initial funding, and so that's where we'll begin. The committee has helped draft some initial job descriptions that we'll use as some of the basis for our RFQ. And so I think that's something that we're going to be working hand in hand in together. But I wanted to make sure their request for a staff position was acknowledged. And then the reminder that we have a different approach that's available to us right now. We're going to take that path. And then throughout the last week since the budget has come out, you know, Jen did a great job of asking the question, where does this fit in the broader town scheme? And that consultant will report up through the town manager's office. And so it probably doesn't belong here in land use. It really does belong over in administration for now. That's what the reporting structure is. It may belong back over here eventually, but I think in the next draft of the budget, you'll see that consultant coastal resilience and the associated operating line, which is 7,500 coastal resilience over on the administration side.
So you're saying it doesn't belong in here? Okay, and it's not in here now, or?
It
It
is.
is.
It is shown here on this page, $50,000 in the top third, the one, two, three,
It
fourth
doesn't
line down.
Next to it, Bill.
Right.
And then the second line from the bottom.
So so are you asking us?
I'm telling you what to expect in the next draft
Right,
version.
okay. So my question, so do we want to wait to discuss this, or do you want?
I think we can discuss it now because it's in front of everyone, and I think that, you know, this is the timing, but I just didn't want Jen to bear the burden of those questions.
That presented seems to make sense, you know. My question would be on that $50,000. I know it's gonna be a pass-through. It's gonna be coming from a grant into fund it. Is there a delay, or do we already have that money? I have, until we're sure we have that money, I have reservations about, you know.
We have a funding agreement in place, and the payment terms, I don't have off the top of my head, but I believe once we have executed or about to execute a contract, so we've been through the RFP process, we've identified a vendor. We provide a status update to Ørsted, and they release that funding concurrent with the execution of the contract.
So is there a way for us to have it in the contract subject to the funding, or we would have to put it in? In other words, would we have that contract signed with Ørsted and guaranteed it was coming in before we have our budget?
It's already guaranteed to come in.
Okay.
We have that funding agreement in place.
Okay, you don't have any concern on the
I don't.
delay? It will be within the fiscal year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I just want to make sure we're not.
We are not exposed, and we
Exactly.
did make that in some early drafts of that funding agreement. We flip-flopped that sequence so that we were not committing to any of the consultants in that funding program which involves the North Light and others, we were not out on a limb without having that funding guaranteed.
And this isn't, it's a consultant, not an employee, so we're not subject to the benefits and
Correct.
legal costs and so forth. The other reason I like it moved out of this, because it makes it clear that it's a consultant line. And in the event we aren't funded, I don't want us to feel like, oh, this has been built in, it's a position we're losing, so.
Maybe just, I'm Ann Salinas, the Chair of the Coastal Resilience Committee. And we submitted this request, and we're very happy to see that there will be some consultant position. But I did have a couple questions about that. Because of our previous conversations, my understanding is a consultant has to have a sort of deliverables-based agreement. Whereas I think a lot of the responsibilities, the gap we see right now is in sort of town responsibilities in terms of managing the grant we have now, the grant that we have been awarded but haven't received yet from DEM, and future grants to prepare us for, the more we are prepared and plan to mitigate the impacts of climate change and sea level rise, the better off we'll be. So I guess I just want to highlight that I think is still a gap here in terms of, there's also state level, plans that we're responsible for. And right now we don't have someone on the town staff who's responsible. I mean, it's all onto you as the town manager. So I think there is still a need for a staff position. I hope it's something the town will invest in the future. Right now, the town has not invested, I don't think, very much. The former town planner did have some role in this, but other than the 2000, the CRC has a line item in the budget for, there hasn't been, it's all been grant funded. So just wanted to find this, I mean, this is progress, but it's not really, doesn't meet the full needs that we have identified. And I've asked for it. This is not the first time the committee has made this request. So, but it is the first time we've seen it appear in the budget, which is great.
Well, I don't disagree with you. But I'm a broken record on this, so I might as well do it again. I'm of a mind that this whole part of town government needs to be looked at. Amy, you and I have talked about it. I've said it at meetings. I think for the demands that we have, and it runs from climate change to building permit enforcement to zoning and planning, and the new responsibilities on the planning board in the wake of major statutory changes. I think we need to not make a quick decision for this budget, but I do think we gotta plant a flag, whether that is Amy providing you with a small amount of money to engage someone to help sort of conceptualize and write what the options are for the shape of that department, and what those I hate to even say that department, because it's in different buckets.
It is different buckets
and
across different functionalities of the
yes.
town. So I do think we want to be careful about calling out any one narrow slice, but we do need a more holistic view across
Yes.
planning, zoning, building, land use, enforcement, resiliency
Yes.
as a discipline.
Yes.
If I can.
Yeah, exactly. And I hope I wasn't calling anything out. My purpose is not to call anybody out. It's that it is, in my opinion, under-resourced. And honestly, like let's talk about building. Houses are significantly more complicated than they used to be. The systems are significantly more complicated. So you have, Tristan would know this better than I, but you have people who are working in industries who need ready access to expertise. That's one slice of it, that is not coastal resiliency, but is sort of in that, potentially too gigantic a bucket. And I really think we should plan to plan and get a sense of, from your perspective, are there inputs we would need to engage someone to help that thought process along so that we can really start thinking as a council and as a town about what resources we need and what a system ought to look like.
Where did Jen go?
She left it just the right time.
I wanted to circle back to that, the land use budget in general and just talk about just a couple things. So wages clerk, and you'll see says a reduction of 11%. So last year, you'll remember the council put in an extra position, 20 hours with benefits. We budgeted for that. Currently, the position is filled at 10 hours a week by an existing employee. So we're we're not having
Gotcha.
to pay the benefits. So what you're seeing reflected here is an actual, okay, based on what actual staffing is. If that extremely efficient employee were to leave tomorrow, we might be in a different situation where we have to revisit that 20-hour-a-week position. But we tend to budget for what's in place right now and what we can safely predict will be filled next year. So that's why that position is currently in at the 10 hours.
Great.
Anything to add to that? No, okay. We increased consultant planner based on just the usage history. You can see that we've gone up in the amount of work that has gone into that department. Everyone knows how much work has been handed that way. And so this is really, they've needed to, choose the consultant more essentially just for.
We just
doing their job.
spent a meeting where 3 out of the 4 issues were a direct result of state action impacting our ordinances, and we had to pay for a planner and a land use solicitor to help us through that process. And initially the state was really generous. This is just, I'm sorry, I have to vent for a second. Initially they were great about providing us with some basic planning, which, by the way, we had to do with our, it didn't necessarily reduce the workload for our planner and land use solicitor, but so much of this consulting fee for the planner is consumed by statutory changes, and very little of it is for our own island's planning, and that's a source of great frustration for me.
On the coastal resiliency, the 2,000, what does that exactly go for?
That's level funding from the prior year's request. And do you want to say anything about that?
I was going to say, we're trying to encourage them as volunteers to stop paying out of pocket for
Yeah.
the work that they're doing, but go ahead,
So
Anne.
this year, we're thinking of using it for printing a new citizen's guide for how to protect your home from flooding and erosion. I think most of
good.
it will go to that.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, and just circling back to that police budget and that question about the accreditation. And yes, there is a one-time annual fee, $2,250, that is paid to the Rhode Island Police Accreditation Coalition. So that explains
Good.
why the current year-to-date is not reflecting
That makes
that amount.
sense.
Yeah. Okay, so we jumped forward. Now we can jump back. Where were we? Public Works.
We wanna do harbors or recreation? Which ones do you want to do?
Did we?
Kate wants
did
to
you
lead.
Public
We
Works?
haven't done public
No.
works, but
we- people-
Dave
yes, of course.
and Kate are here, so we want to.
Yeah, so then we will start with harbors.
Hi, Kate.
Hi. If you don't have anything specific, I just have 4 points that I would like to make.
Make them.
The staff wages line was increased, and I really appreciate that consideration. 26 of my staff that are coming back, 19 of them have been with me for more than 3 years. So that the training confidence in my team is overwhelming. So
Yeah.
again, I really appreciate that consideration. The second is the fuel. We all know how expensive gasoline prices are right now. And when I applied for our CVA grant this year, the conversation will begin on them potentially allowing fuel and staff costs to be put into that
Oh.
application.
That would be helpful.
So they're willing to at least open that door for
Yeah.
us to discuss.
Kate, when you did your budget, and I assume with the police department, the road crew.
Yeah.
I would assume this was before we started getting this
Yeah.
spike, so, then I defer it back to Mona and to Amy that, it's gonna obviously, if things don't settle down, there will have to be some adjustments on that, whether it's contingency or whatever we do from that end of it. I'd rather not see us spike these way high.
Right.
But I think I think it would be understandable for everyone to realize that those are gonna be vulnerable line items.
Right.
Yes.
And again, hopefully they will allow me to
Right.
put that in next fall's application. The next is for mooring maintenance. We're looking to modify and change our ground tackle from mushrooms to helical moorings. So that is going to be a increase in the contract that we would put out. That's going to be a cost on the contractor.
What's the difference between a mushroom and a helical?
The helical gets screwed in. It's
Mm-hmm.
got a little stronger holding power, at least for the first 2 or 3 rows that are basically just sand out there.
Yeah.
As opposed to the ones that are deeper in the mud.
Mm-hmm.
Would you remove those seasonally? Would they be permanent?
They would be permanent.
What's
Like
their-
like we do now. They take the ball off and all that chain just goes right into the mud, into the sand. With a long line to it, touched with a
And the
winter
chain
buoy.
is replaced every X amount of
Yep.
days. Okay, is that was that the maintenance general you were just talking about? Which line? I didn't,
Maintenance moorings, 7410.
okay, thank you.
And then
And then did you say 19 people? That's
19.
staff?
I have
Or
26.
20?
I have 26 seasonal staff. That includes Old Harbor. It's Old Harbor pump out, patrol, shellfish, collections. And then the last one is dredging. We are fighting Mother Nature over there in Old Harbor, and I have not been able to rely on the Army Corps to do their biannual dredging like they have in the past. It is long overdue over there. And I think if we're able to do the dredge project that I want, we'll make that money back in the revenue that we're losing by not being able to use 75 plus feet of dock space.
Right. It's getting worse with every
Yeah.
storm.
And it's becoming a navigational hazard. It has been because now it's closing in on the inner basin channel for the
Right,
fishing boats
right,
to
yeah.
come in and
Yeah.
Yeah, but that, on the dredging, are you talking about landside dredging, or you're talking about, having a?
I think it needs to be done waterside.
Right.
The last time we did it, so I didn't do it this winter. The last time we did it, Bain did the best he could with the funds that we had.
So is this number realistic, though? I mean, 80, the number we haven't hit for dredging from the water side, unless we're piggybacking on, someone else who's having the mobilization.
I'm gonna try and get as many people as I can to get on a dredge project, as well as the one that we're gonna be doing in New Harbor. So
It just
the
seems
most
like-
expensive part is getting them out here.
The mobilization is the,
So
yeah.
working with someone who is out here with that equipment, I'm hoping that that number is reasonable.
Is that space behind Dead Eyes and Bimmy, is that scheduled?
That's what
That's
we're
what
looking
this
to,
is.
I'm looking to do that in the fall.
I see, gotcha.
Well, there's a component, this has become worse and worse every year.
Oh, go.
Go.
Let's do the next one.
Go, let's say.
Jesus.
I just, I just hope that, that's enough. So. Yeah. Larry, and I know how important it is, so. But
I think it's also important that we work with our abutter, and he utilizes his permit to disperse his sand on his side a different way, possibly. I'm going to be planting dune grass there in the spring on our side. So we have other options. I'm going to try and make a dune across that breakwater
Right.
that you can barely see right now. So is this reflective in how much sand is going to have to be removed? No, absolutely not. But we're doing the best that we can over there. So, and hopefully the Army Corps comes out this fall to do the main channel. And
So-
if they do, the last time they were out here was 2021, and they did the inner basin as well.
Do you know what that cost us to do, or did they do that?
They did it.
They did it, okay, good.
So
Quick question, you had, a request for more on the dinghy dock. What was the? Should I not have? Oh, shit.
Well, we started with a quorum, but we're not voting. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Can we adjourn?
Sure, yours, sure.
Well, I mean.
I'm gonna stay in the middle.
No, can you adjourn if you
don't have a quorum? We'll stop.